Hey, good morning, folks. So, next video in the series, Wilderness Living here is, like I said in the last couple videos, we're going to start, adding to the shelter, making it a little more livable, functional, and stuff like that. So, last night was down into the teens. I woke up, went down to feed my animals this morning around 8. It was still about 22 degrees. So it's a nice cool day to go ahead and add the next piece, which is a Nyko stove that I got from Outfitter Supply online. They're based out of Columbia, Montana, I believe it is. And this is their Packer camp stove. They have obviously different models of that. But it's a 10 by 10 by 23 sized box. It's got a couple different things on either side where you can hang attachments from. One I believe has, a little table or shelf type setup, and the other side you can hang, a water device to heat up your water and have hot water. I didn't get any of that yet. I just got the stove with the stove pipe. I think they sell it as a package deal for right around $210, I think it is. All I got was the stove and the stove pipe, so I bought it separate and probably for right around the same amount of money. But the stove itself is like $140 and whatever, 60, 70 something dollars for the stove pipe. If you buy the package deal, I believe it comes with a damper, which would be a good thing to have, so I'm gonna have to pick those up separate now, and then a spark arrestor at the top. But I'm gonna show you that in a minute, and something I don't think people think about, and I kind of have experience with this, just not, with a stove or something heating up this type of natural shelter. But I was talking to, my friend Tim Smith from Jack Mountain Bushcraft, a weekend or two ago at the Snowwalkers Rendezvous, and we stayed in his canvas tent with the wood stove, and, night and day difference, obviously, for winter camping. As you guys know, I spend winters out under a tarp, long log fires, things of that nature. But, it kind of opened up my eyes to a whole new world almost, because this is kind of out of the norm for me. But I think it has its place in winter camping and, long-term type stuff. Again, if you have a way to pack this type of stuff around, you don't always have to come out to the woods and rough it, or whatever you want to call that, with a tarp, and whether it's a sleep system, a wool blanket, whatever you prefer, and a bunch of firewood and stuff like that. There's other ways to do things and be totally comfortable. Packing some good foods. There's no need to be out here for long periods of time and starve yourself, But like I said, we're gonna get this stove stoked up, but I figured I'd run through some of the details of it with you, let you know what it was before I go ahead and do that. And then again, I have something outside that we're going to take a look at as well. Now, what I was talking about as far as experience in this type of shelter, less some type of heating device, is I've slept in natural shelters with no fire at all and been pretty comfortable. And when I was talking to Tim about it, something they do up at the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School, they build the same dome type shelters, and they cover them with a parachute and then plastic. And this is where I don't think people have, quite the experience as some others, and they just see things online or in YouTube videos, and oh yeah, hey, that's great, that's awesome, and they'll just regurgitate that, for, weeks and months to come. But unless you go out there and do it, you won't know that if you have a natural shelter like this, or any type shelter that is not breathable like a natural shelter like this, if you put all the debris on something like this to make it, insulative and weatherproof, again, which I've done and slept in without a heat source, it keeps your body heat in there, but it's not letting anything escape. Now, if you add a heating element to that, you're gonna get a bunch of condensation and stuff like that, especially in the cold months, and it's not gonna have a way to escape, So inside your shelter that is really waterproof from the outside, it's still going to be wet on the inside. So you have to find a way to allow this thing to breathe. And again, you know, I'm just like probably a lot of you, I haven't experienced that personally, but as I talked to Tim about it, you know, it definitely makes sense. Yet even without a heat source, when I slept in my spider shelter, I could tell it was real moist in there. And the stove will dry it out to a degree, but after, you know, a period of time with doing that, it's not going to be able to keep it dry, and then you're going to have the condensation build up, which is just going to make everything wet anyways. So just something to think about, guys. Again, you know, this isn't, I'm the superstar here. I'm learning just like you guys are. So again, this is all new to me, and we're just going to try it out. So let's go take a look outside, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that and explain a little bit more on the breathability and stuff like that, and the discussion Tim and I have had. So hang tight. Alright, so if you can see that, it's just a piece of canvas up top. I apologize for the sun there. But that canvas is going to let this shelter breathe, you know, as well as the door if I don't keep that thing shut. But I need to have that top area breathable so the shelter, you know, the air flows through it and it doesn't get all condensation and stuff like that. I'm still going to add to the outside because we can't have them holes and stuff that you've seen from the inside. So we got to tidy that up and add the debris, but we're going to leave the canvas up top for that breathability effect. Now that canvas is not waterproof, and if you get a snow on there and you get the stove going, it's going to melt in, and we're just going to have to figure that out as we go. But the thing needs to breathe, so that's what I'm going with for now. And you know, we'll make adjustments as necessary when the time comes. I think just on that small top of the cone up there, if we get that stove stoked up, you know, good enough, we can probably keep that pretty dry without getting wet inside. But again, you know, we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. And so again, the way, you know, Tim and the students do it up there, they'll build the same dome type shelter. They'll cover it with the parachute, which is breathable. So all the condensation, any moisture is gonna get out through that parachute material, but then they cover the outside of that with plastic. So it's almost like a greenhouse effect. So you get all that condensation rises up, gets through the parachute, pretty much sticks to the plastic and then runs down on the outsides, so it stays nice and dry on the inside. We're not going to have that here again, so we're just going to have to see how it goes, you know, with the canvas up top. Maybe I might need to put a little bit bigger of a piece. We'll just have to see when the time comes. So I'm going to go grab some wood. We're going to christen this thing, get it stoked up for the first time, and see what happens. So obviously it's got the damper on the front as well, the handle, paper in there from the stovepipe. Now while we're doing this, this is made from 22 gauge steel, and it's not stainless. So the one downfall to this particular stove is that it can get what they call burn through. That one's a little too long. It can get burn through. So after using this for a long period of time, the steel is going to get weakened up. You're going to have to maintain this type of stove as best you can. You know, it's going to rust and stuff like that. They do sell exactly the same types of stoves in titanium, which don't burn through. But for the couple $100 I paid for this, for the same type of stove, you're gonna pay, you know, upwards of $800 for the titanium one. So I mean, if you have that type of money to throw at a stove, then all the better, of course. But And I'm just gonna use my lighter to get that going. And you know, the more wood you put in something like this, I'm definitely gonna have to get the damper, because right around the smokestack there, to include probably the first 1.5 feet of that stovepipe, it will get cherry red, and you want to minimize that, obviously, for that whole burnout thing we were talking about. You know, you'll save your stove, it'll last a lot longer that way. But this is the initial burn-in. It's brand new, I've had it for a couple weeks. Just now getting around to getting it out here, and you know, see how it goes. You can see now it's going pretty good inside, but this isn't smoke leaking out of the stove. It's actually from the oil that they put on it before they ship it, you know. So we'll keep this thing running for a little bit. See how it goes. Going pretty damn good. Throw a few more in there. It's like I was saying with the drafting, you know, I was fortunate enough at the Snow Walkers Rendezvous to, you know, walk around and do the tour of the tents with a couple of the most knowledgeable guys on the subject, to include the people that have been using the tents with their stoves, and talk about the pros and cons of some of that stuff. And you know, there was debate, kind of 50-50, on whether your stack goes out, you know, the top roof portion of your tent, or if it comes out, you know, a sidewall to reduce, obviously, rain getting in and stuff like that. And it was kind of a toss-up there. In very Arctic conditions, the straighter you can have your pipe from, you know, what was mentioned there, to go out the top, the better off you're going to be, because now you're using the length of that whole stove pipe inside the tent will actually help keep it warm in there, rather than a little elbow out a sidewall and you're losing all that heat from that pipe on the outside. But again, that was, you know, kind of 6-1, half a dozen of another on that one. And then the elbows, different types of elbows going in and out of the tents, you know, at an angle, 45-degree angle and what have you. And pretty much the norm and what everyone agreed on was, even if you had an angled pipe going out of your shelter, whatever it may be, tent, debris hut, whatever it is, cabin, doesn't matter. Once you get out to the end of your pipe, the best thing for allowing, you know, your stove to draft the best is to put another elbow on there so that it's straight up and down. So then the wind can come from any angle and allow that draft to come up. If you just have it stop on an angle and you get a headwind, you know, you're gonna get backdraft into your stove and possibly smoke into your shelter. And again, none of this is really rocket science, and you probably all know a little bit about it, but just in case you don't, something to think about, you know. Oh yeah. It's already getting pretty warm inside here. And again, I think I showed you guys around in the other videos that it's you know, a good 12 feet in diameter anyway, so it's a pretty good sized shelter here. Already nice and warm in here, guys, even with the holes on the side. And the door wide open, obviously, but pretty toasty, and it's probably right around the freezing mark would be my guess now. It's probably up to, you know, low 30s anyways outside. So should be pretty nice. So I think you can see it's drafting pretty well. That's a good thing. And that's kind of the other idea for the canvas up top there, is just to catch any stray sparks that might come out. You know, this a debris shelter, so we don't need any of that going on. Alright guys, so just a bit on heating the shelter. Probably all the more I'm going to keep rocking the wool blankets, because it's going to be very warm in here. So on to some other projects. Thank you guys for joining me for this one, for the burn-in process in the new stove, setting it up and checking it out. Now the rest of the day is going to be probably adding debris to the shelter, a couple raised beds perhaps inside. You know, again, just improving the shelter as we go. And then again, you know, the further we get into the videos, we'll actually start staying in here and going out and doing some other things, and kind of living out of it, you know, as time permits. And I think it'll be a good experience. So again, thanks for joining me for this one, and I will see you soon with another one. Till then, take care.